Welcome back to Cochise County Sunday Roundtable. I'm Terry Joan Neff, Herald Review Media's Courts and Crime reporter. With me today is a very special guest. We have Carol Kappas from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office. Carol wears many hats there, but today we're going to have you speak on one particular topic, and that is the sex offender registration unit.
Correct.
So, as a courts and crime reporter, I think every week I see some reference to somebody either being ordered to register as a sex offender or they're in trouble because they allegedly didn't register when they were supposed to. So, what exactly is it that sex offender registration involves?
So the offender, once they've been convicted or adjudicated of a sex offense crime, they have to register in the county that they reside. If they're coming from out of state, they have 10 days to do that. If they're moving from within state, they only have 72 hours.
Okay.
So in order to do that, they have to either contact our office and make an appointment because our sex offender unit, I should have began there, is staffed by 2 part-time people. So we have certain days and times that people can come and do their registrations. So if they are just getting out of prison or jail and they're not aware of the process and they do walk-ins, we can generally get them registered at that point. Otherwise, they make an appointment. So the registration requirements are they have to fill out a page of, it's a 2-page document for the registration, takes into account their all of their demographics, their names, physical address where they're living, their crime, if they know what that is. And they have to initial that, yes, I understand all of the requirements of sex offender registration.
Okay.
So that's what happens when they fail to comply. So if they move and don't tell us, they acknowledge that on their initial registration that they know what their rights are and what
And
their
that's
rules
not
are.
just moving, let's say, from Pima County to Cochise County. We just had somebody recently arrested who was registered in Bisbee, but he apparently had been residing recently in Sierra Vista and hadn't notified you.
That's correct.
Okay.
So all of those things come into play. So
Okay.
any changes we have to be notified of. During that process, we do a lot of background. So we do the criminal histories. We make sure we get documentation from the courts because most of the time people don't have that. If they just got out of a prison or a jail setting, then they have to have proof of any type of program that they participated in while there. And all of these things add up to numbers. So the numbering system comes from a 15-page assessment tool.
And this number is not appointed by the court or by probation.
It
This
is
is
not.
appointed by the sheriff's office.
No, it's actually appointed, after we do the review, yes.
Okay.
So that's technically correct. It's a 15-page assessment. We answer all of the questions on the assessment, gives us a number, and that tells us what level they're going to be.
And we have in Arizona 3 levels that they can be.
They can be 3 levels, and then now with new laws and legislation, you've heard of the L and M. That would be the juvenile convictions under L. It would be the pre-Megan under M. And some of those now with, again, new implementation of laws, they can be notifiable even if there's a level 1. Level 1 or pre-Megan, level 1 is in-home notification only.
Okay.
Level 2 is a broader area, goes out to the neighborhood, etc. Level 3 is no holds barred. So
Right.
that a level 3 is an assessment that someone is most likely to reoffend. So the recidivism rate is high on a level 3.
So what does your office and your staff do once somebody is registered, they've been given their level, there is an special ID card, as I understand that all registered sex offenders are supposed to have. Can you talk about what that ID card tells somebody? I mean,
Sure. And so when someone registers, that has historically been an issue where they say, I don't want to carry around a document with my photo saying I'm a sex offender.
Right.
It does not. So they have to have an Arizona identification or an Arizona driver's license. That is their ID. It looks just like anybody else's ID. However, in the barcoding section of it, if you get contacted by law enforcement, that will tell law
That's how they know.
enforcement. That is correct.
All right. So once they've registered, they've gotten their level. What is it that your office does? Let's say that any notifications have been made. over, let's say, the next several months, what's done? I mean, they're registered. Is that the end of it?
No, not at all. So there's a lot that it entails. Everyone has to register through the chief law enforcement agency in any county,
Okay.
that being the sheriff's
Mhm.
office. And then from there, if the offender resides in a municipality, Wilcox, Sierra Vista, Bisbee proper, then we notify those
Oh, okay.
departments through Offender Watch, which is the main database that a majority of states nationwide are using now. They get notified that they have the offender, and then the onus is upon them to do whatever review and notification.
Okay.
Our office, when we do the assessments, we make sure that we have to have a secondary sign off. So we have two sets of eyes on the assessments. We have recently, within the past 6 months, had to reassess all of our registrations because we're trying to make sure that we are going to pass any audit that we have. Our internal processes require an audit every week,
Oh, wow.
making sure that we are up to date and we have,
Okay.
information. Offender Watch sends us information when people get their ID card or their driver's license, and then we verify that. We get tips through Offender Watch if somebody calls in and says, hey, Mr. Jones is living here and he shouldn't be.
Right.
We do those notifications. In addition to that, we make sure that we have flyers, actual printed flyers according to the law that have to go to schools.
Okay.
We don't have to do printed flyers to neighborhoods or communities. We do that through postcards. And here's a typical complaint that we get. How come my neighbor was notified and I wasn't? So it's a geofencing issue. We pick based on the level and based on where you live. So if you live in a more remote area that's unincorporated and houses are on 40-acre parcels, we're going to
Fewer
send
people.
out, about 5 postcards.
Right. Okay.
And then if your address is not accurate, then we'll get those postcards back. We pay Offender Watch to do those mailings
okay.
for us, and it's a per card charge that we have to do.
So when folks get those in the mail, it's an informational. It's to just put them on alert, let's say.
Correct.
But sometimes folks take it a little too far.
They do, and the card actually says, and our flyers say, the information is there to provide education and a resource so you know what you know. What we discourage people is it does not give you a license to intimidate, harass, or threaten the person that's listed on any documentation as an offender.
So how many people do we have in Cochise County right now that your office is tracking?
So
As registered.
right now, as of last Friday, we're at 342.
Okay, and that's all the different levels.
All the different levels.
Okay, so the majority of folks, like I said, I hear maybe once a week about somebody who's in trouble.
Right.
That's not the majority, though, of the ones that are registered. So is it the majority, you would say, do their registration, they get their annual registration card, they tell you about any address changes, and they just do their thing?
Absolutely. So we do check up in person once every year. It's a mandate. And we have them come to our office the month of their birthday.
Oh, okay.
So they have to come in. We are consistently checking driver's license, addresses, files, making sure that we're up to date, the offenders are up to date, answering questions, and doing what we need to do in that respect. We audit Offender Watch with our internal files to make sure that everything matches, and every week it matches. If it does not match, we have to go back through and find out why. And that's something that is not a mandate. That's something that I don't know what agencies do, but that is a requirement from us to our staff to make sure that everybody's good. If we have someone who fails to register or who is out of compliance, then we submit that information to our detective division.
Oh,
They do an investigation, and they either get a warrant for the person's arrest or they locate them, and then they end up making an arrest.
okay. So folks here in Arizona, to become a registered sex offender, there has to be a court order for that.
Correct.
All right. Interestingly, I've seen a few cases where folks have been convicted of something maybe in a different state, where maybe they didn't have to register there, but they moved to Arizona and now sometimes they do have to register. Is that something, how do you find out about those, or are those just kind of, had some kind of law enforcement contact and then you found out what their background was?
We either get tips from the community, and that happens frequently. We have law enforcement contact.
Okay.
And if we do, if we frequently have people say, I'm not required to register in the state I live in, or I have a letter here that says, I'm off of registration, because all states are not equal
Right.
in the registration requirements. So if you're registered to if you're required to register in a certain state for 10 years and you're done, no, if that crime that you committed can equate to a crime in Arizona, Arizona is a lifetime registration
Right.
state. So you have to do it for life. If you are convicted or adjudicated as a juvenile, you still have to register. But if you don't get into any other trouble, and this is something we stress when we do the registrations, don't get into any other trouble. Make sure you maintain your registration requirements. For any other offense. If you get arrested for anything else, it goes against your sex offender registration level. So if you can stay clean until you're 26, you can get off the registry. So we want to make sure people understand that when they do the registrations.
So there used to be a lot of folks in Cochise County all across Arizona who did not have to be on the public website.
There still are.
Right. So when the laws change, somebody could perhaps have not had to be publicly noted, on the website or something, and now all of a sudden they're showing up. Is there fallback for that? Is there anything that they can do for that? Should the public be concerned because all of a sudden somebody shows up and they have a conviction from years ago, but they've lived in the community and nobody ever knew? So how do you guys deal with that?
So June 1st, 1996, Megan's Law came into effect. Prior to June 1st, 1996, there were still registration requirements, and they've, ebbed and flowed throughout the years since 1980. As a result of Megan's Law, if you were arrested or convicted of a listed offense, then you had to be classified, because people prior to that were not classified. Once you get classified, you get on some type of a registry, unless, again, it morphs. A level 1 is the lowest level. And if you were a level 1 before, and under Megan's Law, it was an in-home notification only. Now, because the inception of Senate bills and Arizona law is changing, if it was a dangerous crime against children, now you are on the website. So now people, for whatever reason, are on the website, and we get feedback from the offender, the registrant, and we get feedback from the community. Why did it take you 30 years to let us know?
Right.
Or the offender, how dare you put me on the registry now? It's one of those.
And you don't have any choice in the matter.
None.
The sheriff's office has to follow whatever the state law is.
That's correct. And we provide copies of the law to the registrants when they come to register. Some of them there's 2 in particular, Senate bills right now, that have passed, but they're in litigation. So one of them requires us to get the names of children of registered offenders, even if it's stepchildren, if they're residing in the home, and we have to notify the schools.
Okay.
And then the schools will notify the parents. So that is still in litigation. The one that is not is the dangerous crimes against children. So if you're a level 1 and your original offense was that, you're going on the website.
So if somebody has a concern, they want information, they've somehow seen it, whether it's from social media, through you guys, and they have a concern, they want to know something about the case. What are their options?
They can call local law enforcement. So if it's an offender residing in Sierra Vista, inside of Wilcox, they can call that law enforcement agency. They can contact the Sheriff's Office Sex Offender Registration Unit. We can tell them what we can tell them. We will most likely direct them to go to Offender Watch, which is a broad database. And we encourage that anyway, because you sign up for notifications.
Right. You can
So
put your address or your zip
Correct.
code in, and you can get notices.
That's correct. And so you'll get notified if someone moves into your area. Again, there's a lot of restrictions. It's changing constantly. The governor just signed into effect on April 7th of this year, so a few days ago, a new law that if you get a name change, so that was one of the things.
Yep.
You go to court, you change your name. If you have to disclose that your sex offender registration individual. And once you do that, then there's other requirements you have to
Right.
do. You have to notify the prosecuting agency where you were originally charged. They have to keep that for 1 year, but then you have to register under your new name.
Right. So, what if folks have a concern that there is something going on about someone on the sex offender list, or just in general, somebody is concerned about somebody's behavior in that respect? Is there a way that they can provide a tip to the sheriff's office?
Absolutely. So we have sheriff's tips, which you can do anonymously through our webpage. You can call us and say, I want to talk to somebody about this, but I don't want to give you my name. Please do. All of those things are important because you have to see something and say something other than, going on some forum or social media and complaining about it and
Right.
frequently and just trolling through some of those.
Right.
People will undoubtedly say, did you report this to the sheriff's office? Did you report this to the police department? And then you hear crickets.
Yeah.
So we need to know before we can change something. And then that way we can make explanations, not excuses. So if you say, how come, this guy was convicted of child molestation and now he's residing with his girlfriend and they have small children in the home, how can you allow that to happen? We don't allow that to happen. The court has to order that they cannot be in certain situations. A majority of the time, that order is not issued. So we cannot enforce an order that is not issued.
And some folks are also, in addition to lifetime sex offender registration, they're on lifetime probation
Correct.
as well. So more of the day-to-day supervision, I believe, is done by probation.
That's correct.
You guys do more of the just making sure they're in compliance with the registration requirements.
That's correct.
Okay. What phone number, Carol, can somebody call if they have questions?
520-432-9500. That's our main office. Again, our personnel are part-time, but if you get that 9500, they'll either transfer you to a voicemail and you will get a call back, or if you need immediate contact, just tell whoever answers the phone, which rings into our administrative offices, that you need immediate contact, and someone will get back to you.
Super. All right, so that's it for this episode of Cochise County Sunday Roundtable. Thank you, Carol, for coming out. Very important topic, and I hope that it's provided some education for folks.